But right now we're going to take a caller live on the air. Let's go up to Melbourne, where Richard has a question about his 2014 Dodge Avenger. Go ahead, Richard.
Yes, hi, Larry.
Hey, Rich.
I've got a 2014 Dodge Avenger. I bought it new and with about 20 miles on the odometer, and it's got 113,000 miles on it, 113,000 miles and change. Recently, I had to get a radiator changed. I had that done by a shop locally, and ever since I got it back, my idle is not smooth, and it seems to be about 50 or 100 RPMs lower than what it normally is. It's running about maybe 550 RPMs. And as far as my gas mileage, that seems to be way off in the city, but the highway miles are unaffected. The highway mileage is unaffected. And I'm guessing I probably maybe got a vacuum leak or something somewhere in there. I don't know. I mean, just looking for any clues to go on.
Yeah. Do you have a service engine light on, check engine or anything like that?
No. No, I don't.
Let me ask you this. Did you have a serious overheat with the previous radiator?
No, it just had a crack in it, and it was leaking some coolant. It never got into an overheat situation.
Okay, all right.
So I was lucky there. It was a small crack, small hairline crack. It was just kind of oozing coolant, but I just wanted to get it fixed before, it turned into something bad. So.
Understand. Now, whenever they replaced the radiator, did anybody decide that it was time to probably replace the thermostat at the same time?
I changed those myself within the year. I changed all the hoses, all the heater hoses, and it's actually got two thermostats, which is strange, but I changed the thermostat housing and the thermostats within the last 12 months. It's got all new Mopar parts on it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. It sounds like you're pretty handy, Richard. You want to tell listeners why you replaced all those plastic pieces?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with the word plastic. There's like the filler neck is actually plastic, and it's spliced into the upper radiator hose. And a couple of years ago, that actually just split and came apart. And I was just lucky that I didn't blow up my engine. I was like 3/4 of a mile from my house, thinking it was just like maybe I was having a problem with my temperature gauge or something. But then I got back to my house, raised the hood, and the hose completely separated. The upper hose basically was completely separated at that plastic filler thing. So I changed that then, and then I was just thinking like, oh, there's more plastic in here, so I just changed everything.
Yeah, now, I try to stress that. What we're dealing with nowadays, it's like, in the past, you keep your oils changed and you replace a set of hoses every 10 years or something, and usually you're pretty bulletproof. Nowadays, it's not like that. I mean, unless you almost have an anniversary to go and replace all these plastic cooling system parts, something's going to wind up getting you, especially if it's somebody not in the know like you are, and for you to be in the situation where it wasn't a hose that give up the ghost, it was just a piece of plastic just break in two, you lose all your coolant, next thing you know, you've got some major issues on your hands. And then you get a young driver, what are they going to do? They're going to overheat that thing till it glows red, and then the motor's junk, So that's what we're faced with nowadays, and I try to tell folks, listen, at around the 10-year mark, 8 to 10 years, whatever, you really need to consider not only replacing the cooling system hoses, but all of the plastic, Usually if a radiator gets a little split in it or something like that, like in your case, you'll notice that there's a coolant loss or you'll see something on the ground, and that kind of gives you a clue. So usually that's not all at once. But like on your other previous issue where a piece of plastic just breaks in two, hey, listen, there's no notification with that. That's immediate overheat and cook your engine, So that's the reason those types of things, it's very important to get them replaced before you have those types of problems, So, but as far as this low idle type of situation, if we don't have a check engine light, and I'm trying to think of, is this the 2.4 or a 3.6 motor in this?
It's a 2.4 liter VVT.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's room in front of the engine there to where it's not a real tight, compacted situation. I'm not saying it's easy by no means to replace the radiator, but, there shouldn't be a whole lot of anything engine control wise that they would have had to have addressed or messed with. You see what I'm saying? They didn't they didn't really have to get in there and pull a wiring harness off or something along those lines. You know, I don't know whether it may be coincidental. I mean, you know, if all they did was replace the radiator itself, you know, and then you get a fuel economy issue like this as well. You know, if you just said it really overheated bad, then, you know, we could have flipped a coin because, I mean, we could have had O2 contamination from coolant maybe seeping around a head gasket. I mean, it could go on and on and on. But, you know, if we didn't have a severe overheat along with this condition, then I really have to sit back here and just kind of think, you know, fuel economy and a lower engine RPM. You know, it could be a vacuum hose or something along those lines, but I just, you know, I don't know how they would have been in there in depth that far to have actually disturbed anything like that. So, you know, but anything's possible unless you physically sit right there and watch the tech work on it. You don't know what they did. Like sending your kid off to school for the first day, you know. You really don't know what they could have done. But anything that they would have done, I would have think, Richard, that it would set a code and it would have a check engine light on, you know. So those are kind of things that, and I will tell you this, of course, you've already done this before this happened, but and you can ask anybody that's listened to this program. I will tell you, whenever it comes time to replace a thermostat in a vehicle like this, and I'm sure you did, you know, it is very important to go back with an original equipment thermostat. You know, I can't stress that. You know, if you go and you take a Mopar thermostat out of a vehicle like that and you go back in with a Stant or a Gates thermostat, they're not calibrated the same, and the computer picks up on that, and it can definitely affect fuel economy. But if they didn't do anything with those items, I don't see how it could have actually, you know, putting a new radiator in it and some new coolant. I mean, if anything, the engine should be happier.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Have it scanned, even though there is no codes. Have it scanned and see if there is a historic code or something in there like that. You know, there could be a transmission code in there, something maybe with the torque converter lockup to where it's not going into torque converter lockup when you're driving down the road, you know, and if that's the case, that could definitely affect your fuel economy, but you would probably notice a little higher of an engine RPM. You know, maybe you know, 500-600 RPMs higher at the same speed than what you were used to, you know. But those are the types of things we're probably going to have to look for, especially if it's not missing at idle. If it's just a reduced lower idle, you know,
it seems to be not smooth too. It's not smooth at idle either. So.
Well, if it's idling too low, it will. A little four-cylinder will start shaking the car apart if it's not at the right engine RPM, you know, because the engine harmonics will get worse if it's not at its correct engine RPM. So I'd say let's scan this thing, and then if need be, get a scan done on it today if you want. Just pull into a parts store or something, let them scan it, and then send it Larry at magicmechanic.com, and let me look and see what you come up with on Monday morning, and let me see if I can maybe give you a little better advice, and maybe we can figure this out and get it tracked down.
Okay, thank you, Larry. I'll get it scanned.
Have a great weekend.
Information.
Uh-huh.
You too. Thanks.